This is part 3 of the video on how to solve the problem which is nasty numbers. And we said a nasty number is a number that you can find a pair of divisors of the number that their sum is equal to the difference of another pair of divisors. Now we put all these together and we are going to solve the problem. But before we do that, let's go back and do it, step by step to see what is involved. Let's consider the number 10. The factors of 10 are 1, 2, 5, 10. So this is going to be the numbers in the factor list, 1, 2, 5, 10. Then after we call the set pairs, these are the pairs of numbers which are going to be in the pairs list. Now what we have to do, very simple, is that we have to check each one of these pairs to see if the sum is equal to the difference. Now, one thing you have to remember is the sum is not hard. You just add the two numbers and the sum is the summation of those two numbers. For instance, 1 plus 2 doesn't matter if you add 1 plus 2 or 2 plus 1, you're going to get 3. But the difference is you have to be careful because 1 minus 2 gives you minus 1, 2 minus 1 gives you 1. So when you are dealing with the difference, because the sign of the number, the result does not matter, we have to find the absolute value of the difference. So the absolute value of 1 minus 2 is 1, and the absolute value of 2 minus 1 is also 1. Now, the other thing which is very important that we have to remember is that when we are comparing the pairs here, we have to make sure that they do not have any common numbers. For instance, give you one example. Look at all the pairs here. If you look at the pair 1, 2 here and the pair 2, 5 here, you may, tempted to say, okay, 1 plus 2 is 3, and the absolute value of 2 minus 5 is 3. So you say that because the sum of one pair is the same as the difference of the other pair that you have here, number 10 is nasty. But in fact, number 10 is not nasty. The reason is that 1 and 2, this pair, and 2 and 5, they have 2 in common. So I cannot compare these two pairs. The pairs that you have to compare are the ones that they are not going to have any common element. If you do comparing the pairs, meaning sum and difference, you will see that 10 is not nasty because I can't find two different pairs here that their sum and the difference are equal. So this one is very important. So now let's go ahead and write our last procedure here. So the last procedure that I'm going to again create is called set nasty. Again, it's not going to return anything. It's going to operate on the nasty variable here. Initially, the nasty variable is false. And I'm going to make sure, because I'm going to check it whenever I click on this one, that the nasty is set to false for any new click on the check button. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to set nasty to be false always. Now I'm going to go and write a new procedure and I'm going to call it set nasty. Whenever I call this one, it's going to set the variable nasty which is false. And at the end, I'm going to check to see if nasty is true. If it is true, then I'm going to say the number is nasty. Otherwise, I'm going to say the number is not nasty. So I have to call another procedure after this, which is called set nasty. Now, this procedure is called, so I have to write the code for set nasty. Again, what I have to do is that I have to go through each element of the pairs list. So I'm going to go through the loop here, and I'm going to call the loop. Again, I'm going to call it, let's say, the index I, and I'm going to go through all the elements in the nasty. So I'm going to get length of nasty, length of list, and the list is nasty, and the list is, sorry, pairs. Increment of 1. So every element is going to be checked. Now, at the same time, I'm going to go through another loop. This time I call it J. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go with the next element. So this one out. And I'm going to go with the next element after I. And the length is length of pairs. And now, what this one does is that is this I, let's say I is 1. Then this loop is going to start with 1 plus 1, 2. So it's going to be the second pair. Now, I have to check the sum of these two pairs together. To do that one, again, I'm going to introduce two new procedure again. So I'm going to create a new procedure called getSum. But this procedure, I'm going to have an input. And I'm going to call the input, let's say, element. But this element is going to be, for instance, 1, 2, 1, 3. So this means that I have to split the element and add the first element and the second element and return it. So to do this one, I need a sum block. Now I have to split element and then add them together. To do this one, I'm going to do it in one shot. Remember that the split block in the split block is going to get a text and then split it at the text that I specify here. And this element, I'm going to split it at comma. Now, this is going to return to me a list of two elements. Now I want the first element and the second element, and I want to add them. So I'm going to go to the list, and I'm going to say select I'm going to select from this list, I'm going to select the first item. And I'm going to do the same thing, but this time to the second element. You can see that this is getting to be too long, so I'm going to put external. So this is going to be my getSum. Now we do the same thing, and this time I'm going to make get difference. Now, the only thing that a couple of things I have to change. This is addition, I have to make it subtraction. And again, I'm going to make it external. It is going to be this, this, this is out. Now, remember with subtraction, we have to make sure that we take the absolute value of this subtraction. So I need to go to math and I need absolute value. So I need this one and then put this one here. Now, what I did is that I just moved these two blocks up here because now my all attention is right here. I need space. And then I used cleanup blocks so everything is set nicely spaced. Now the part about the loop, we are going through the list pairs and we are picking every element and we are going to check to see if the sum and differences are equal. So I need an if condition. So I'm going to say if the sum of the element represented by index I is equal to the difference of element represented by index j, then I know that the number is nasty. So I'm going to say if. Now I have to check to see equal. So I'm going to say equal. I'm going to make it external. So I'm going to say if the sum of the element. So I need get sum. If get sum. Now the element is going to be the element represented by index I. So I need to go to list and I'm going to say select list item, and the list item is from pairs and the index is going to be I. So if the sum here is equal to the difference, so I'm going to go to this and I'm going to get the difference, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to duplicate this one and I'm going to change I to j. So if this is true, at the moment, let's just set the global variable nasty to be true. So let's set nasty to be true. Let's check the program here now. Here, after it says set nasty, I want to show nasty. Okay, so let's start the emulator. Number 6, let's see what it returns. It returns true. Let's see another one. Let's say 5. Let's see what it returns now. False, which is correct. Let's start with 8, let's say. It returns true. I'm not checking 8 yet. Let's now check 10. It returns true, but we said here that 10 is not nasty. The problem is that our app right now, it checks 1 and 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. It also checks 2 and 5. 2 minus 5, absolute value is 3, so it returns true. But we haven't put that check yet. We have to make sure that the numbers, the elements which has to be checked, they don't have any common number here. 2 is common between these two, so I cannot return true here. So let's go back to the design here. So now we have to fix this part to make sure that element I here is not going to have any number which is in element J. Element J is two numbers separated with comma, so we have to split it, and then we have to check to see if it is contained in element I. So the first thing I need is the block which says contains. I need this block, and I need an if block, so I'm going to say if. So I'm going to say if the element I of the pairs, so the text is the list is pair and the index is I want to check to see if it doesn't contain number 1 or number 2 of J's element. So to do that one, I'm going to split the element J. So I need this one, and I need a split function, and I need to split it at comma. Now this block that I have here is going to return a list again, but I need the first element. So I'm going to go list, and I'm going to say select this one, but number 1. And then I put it back here. So this one is going to return the first element of the J's item of the pairs list, and I want to know that this is not contained, so I'm going to say not. So if not contain the first element, and, so I need an and operator. I'm going to make it external. So I'm going to say if not contain the first element, and also not contain the second element. So I'm going to change this one, the second element. If not contain the first element and not contain the second element, then I'm going to say set nasty to be true. So this is the modification to our code. Whenever the sum and the difference are equal, I'm going to do this check to see if this is correct. If this is correct, then that's it. Then the number is nasty. So now let's go ahead and check our app in the emulator. Let's start with number 6. Let's see what it returns. It returns true, which is correct. Let's start with number 10, which was a problem. It returns false now. Let's start with number 8. It returns false. Let's check with number 24, which is supposed to return true. which returns true. This is not the perfect solution because it has to check every possible combination, but it works.